We'll have some conversations. P.S. says, God's qualified to contradict himself anytime he sees fit. Me. But we shouldn't think contradictions about him. He must separate us from sin, not pay for it. P.S. God can't separate us from sin till he's okay with sin by cursing us through Christ. Me. Happy to have spent all the unhappiness or to rid what makes him unhappy? I say the latter, for nothing's going to make him happy with sinning. P.S. says, I say the former because God can't just filter out our sins into his death. He has to love us with sin. P.S. says, God whips himself as a bribe to lower his standard. Me. Actually, the cross disconnects us from sin. It's like God creates a fake course case to abuse the law in hopes to trick himself. And moral government theory says, no, he's just trying to trick us. It's like God gets happy about sin by being unhappy. Then P.S. lets God remove the sin. Me. God puts a separation between us and sin. P.S. God shares with Jesus how bad it feels to forgive. No amount of satisfaction will suffice. Sin must be split from us. The cross is about dividing sin from us. P.S. P. Painful to forgive. S. He shares it with Jesus. It's kind of like this. Number one, when God's response to sin was depleted, it was only fully depleted in part. He still has a response to sin in other ways, which is why he must still remove the sin after that part of the response has been depleted. Or, number two, they might say, two aspects, but the same thing happening at the cross. God is feeling his own forgiveness of us. Not that unbelievers hurt God, but believers, which he cares about alone, can hurt his pride, honor, only in that he gives it to them. Besides that, they may also say God wanted to share how he felt with his man. Jesus did P.S. to fellowship with the Father. Here's a little something I wrote. His head is God. The glory of his crown was to wear God's curse, thus making this sacrifice. Blood flows down toward sin and away from God. Everything had blood, but especially his right hand for the believers, his left hand for the propitiation of unbelievers, though they didn't apply it to their hearts. Especially also his feet were bloodied, with which he crushed the serpent. You see by the cross how evil sin is. To do this, to the least deserving of all, you might as well just crucify your law with him and break your stone tablets. Why even have them if you can do this? If you crucify Jesus, then everything else is wrong with you. The law is for sinners. You've used it against the just. Should God continue to uphold your pride with a law that you used against him? Should God promote you by giving you an excuse to kill his son? Since it all cancels out, they think, inside of God, it's okay. God can contradict himself as long as that contradiction is inside, not outside of God. Yes, P.S. cancels itself out, meaning truly nothing. It's only a lens to look into the invisible God. In other words, a guess. It adds frustration within God rather than unity. But it's good to have transaction and drama inside yourself, they excuse. The Father directs pain we cause toward only seemingly disproportionately man, at best sharing it with him. Father likes his faith to endure these super sufferings. But what about death being the only pay? It's still P.S. P.S. is placed above Christ's death. God made his sacrifice to rid sin, not pay it off. Moral government says it was just a show for us. Better, but they don't get the root. I think it was no pay for us to see or for God to take. It was sola oblation. They say that if I don't agree with them, then I don't read the Bible.